The Ukrainians have even a bigger problem. It's not just the Russians are bombing them every day, but in order to have a good election, you need to have soldiers vote. And there are a million soldiers on the line that are going to be difficult. You don't want to pull soldiers off the line while they're defending against the Russians. And there are probably 4 million Ukrainians in Europe somewhere or other. So this is a big challenge, which up to now, and I think even including now, has discouraged Ukrainians from thinking about election during wartime.
But first, let's talk about Mikhailo Fedorov. You might not know who that is, but had you been standing outside Vladimir Zelensky's office, then you would definitely know his name because you'd hear it being chanted by protesting crowds this week. He was the defense minister alongside Zelensky. Then he was shut out of Ukraine's government, and now he's released a YouTube video calling for an election, even, of course, whilst the war is continuing there. It is being taken as pretty much the most serious high-level challenge to Vladimir Zelensky's leadership since President Putin committed to his full-scale invasion. So well worth a moment to think about now with William B. Taylor, former US ambassador to Ukraine and charge d'affaires for Ukraine. Hi there, William.
Good evening, Olly.
Hello. I did my very best there to do a very checkered history of Fedorov's life alongside Zelensky, but I'm sure you can do better. Tell us about him.
So he is a longtime associate. He was there when Zelensky was running for president back in 2019. And has been in the cabinet working with Zelensky. Actually, he was working in the government even before Zelensky was elected. So he's an experienced member of the government. And he's done great work as the Minister of Defense. President Zelensky probably regrets firing him instead of firing the commander-in-chief. And Zelensky recognized that problem and indeed replaced the general, but was not able to bring Fedorov back into the government.
And what are his key grievances with the government? Because he was, very much part of the fight alongside Zelensky. What's he now saying they got wrong?
He's saying that while he was the Minister of Defense, he was making progress against corruption in the military, in the procurement of weapons. And by all accounts, he was. He was doing good work on that. He also was doing very good work on drones. Even before he was the Minister of Defense, he was working on drones from his civilian side of the minister, and did very good work in bringing those into the military. So he's done good work, but the corruption in the procurement is what he was working on hard, and that may have been part of the reason that he was dismissed.
So corruption during procurement is something that rings a bell with us when we think about our own COVID scandals and how the government was, alleged to be doing favours for their friends when it came to getting hold of various equipment that was needed during the pandemic here in the UK. Is it a bit like that? Is that the kind of allegation that weapons and stuff were being procured from sources as a sort of handshake deal?
It is. It's very, and you bring up a good point, Olly. This is a problem all over the world. It's a problem in my country. It is a problem that all governments have to deal with. And the Ukrainians, knowing that, they've set up some really rigorous, robust institutions to ferret out corruption. And that's what's been happening. And Fedorov was working with that, and he's doing that. But the real issue that you raised earlier was all of a sudden his suggestion that there should be an election during wartime. The people are protesting his dismissal as Minister of Defense. I don't think the Ukrainians, at least the ones I've talked to, and I've talked to a lot, are interested in having an election during the war.
And it is pretty unprecedented to do so, isn't it? But then I suppose wars don't often go on as long as this one. It's already gone on longer than World War One.
It has gone longer than World War One. I understand, you will know better than I, but did the UK have elections during World War II? The United States did, but we were being invaded.
But it was hard, yes. It was, I think Churchill wrote numerous books about it.
He did, I understand. Read a couple of those. And the Ukrainians have even a bigger problem. It's not just the Russians are bombing them every day, but in order to have a good election, you need to have soldiers vote. And there are 1 million soldiers on the line that are going to be difficult. You don't want to pull soldiers off the line while they're defending against the Russians. And there are probably 4 million Ukrainians in Europe somewhere or other. So this is a big challenge, which up to now, and I think even including now, has discouraged Ukrainians from thinking about election during wartime.
I mean, it's interesting, isn't it? Because it's almost a taboo to talk about corruption in Ukraine following Putin's full-scale invasion, it seems. To talk about criticism of Zelensky over here when, you know, the political message here is very much about we should be supporting Ukraine. But, I mean, in your experience, A, do you recognise that it is a country that is susceptible to corruption, and that is something that, a likely political candidate should focus on? And B, do you think if there wasn't a war on, there would be an appetite by now to have a different president?
On A, yes, there is corruption, as we've said, in virtually all countries. When you have big money moving around, you're going to have the threat of, and probably the incidence of corruption, and Ukraine is no different. As I say, they're dealing with that in a very rigorous way. They're trying to ferret it out, and Fedorov was doing exactly that. But on your B, on your second question about elections, were there not a war? Sure. And Zelensky has said as soon as he can lift martial law, which is in place because of the war, there will be elections. And he may or may not run. Zelensky may or may not run. He hasn't indicated that he will or won't run. But the Ukrainian people do want to have elections, and it's a real democracy, Olly. It's a real democracy. They're eager for it, but they want to win the war. They know they have to win the war first, because the Russians would take a great advantage of any fracture in the Ukrainian society.
But Fedorov isn't just criticising, although he didn't mention Zelensky by name, interestingly, did he, in his video, even though it's quite clear who he's talking about. But he isn't just criticising, the current situation and the current government. He's positioning himself, presumably, as a candidate.
He's presumably a candidate, although, you're right, he didn't actually say that, but that's the assumption. And his name recognition is as high as it's ever going to be right now, which may lead some cynics to suggest that's why he's talking about it now. But great. As I say, Ukraine's a democracy. There are several other very strong candidates, Zelensky included, a couple of generals that will be very strong candidates, and Fedorov will be there, and that's good. That's a very good thing. You want very strong, good candidates running for president. That they will have. They know they have to win the war first.
Thank you so much for your expertise, William. Before I let you go, I feel bad asking you this question when you've just enlightened us with all of your Ukrainian knowledge, but you are in the US, you are a former US ambassador. What do you make of Harry and Meghan coming back to Britain? Are you going to be sad to see them go?
It's up to them, far be it from this American, to try to tell Brits, much less a British royal, where to live. However, I've been impressed. I saw him speak at a couple of places, and he did some good things for veterans.
All right, good to have that steer. Thank you. William B. Taylor there, former US ambassador to Ukraine, talking just at the end there about the headline on the front of The Sun, their world exclusive tomorrow, 6 years on from Brexit. Harry and Meghan planning to move back to the UK this month with their children Archie and Lilibet enrolled in a British school. King Charles was notified over the weekend. There are no current plans for either Harry or Meghan to resume their royal duties. But if they're here, don't you end up in that half-in, half-out situation once again? They are, after all, a couple of note